Hey folks, this is Adam Pratt. I'm a Senior Systems Engineer at Adobe Systems, co-author of the Adobe InCopy CS2 book from Adobe Press, and your host for Total Training for Adobe InCopy CS2. I don't know about you, but as a published book author and an occasional contributor to various design magazines, I appreciate getting credit for my work. So with that in mind, let's take a look and see how we can use XMP metadata inside of InCopy and InDesign. What you see on my screen is an InDesign layout opened in InCopy CS2. I've taken my type tool and inserted the cursor inside this first story that I wrote. In order to change this story in any way, first I need to check it out of the workflow. So I'll choose File, Check Out. Now I'm not going to change the content of this story, I'm just going to change the metadata for the story. So to do that, we'll go back to the File menu and choose Content File Info. This opens up the Content Information dialog box for this story. You can see several categories here on the left. The only one we're going to edit now is the description field, and we're using XMP-based metadata. Now, what in the world exactly is metadata? Essentially, it's a labeling technology. It allows you to put your name and some description into this story, so no matter where the story goes, everybody knows where it came from and information about the file. So for starters, let's go ahead and edit the document title. Instead of just Museum, let's call it Brooklyn Museum. Then in the author field, we'll type the fictitious name of the author for this story. We'll tab down to the author title field and give this author a title. I've chosen Senior Travel Correspondent. That sounds important, doesn't it? Okay, now let's jump to the description field. Brooklyn Museum reopens after major renovation. Now I'm going to jump to the keywords field and just type a few appropriate keywords. Brooklyn, museum, travel, vacation, that's a good start. The last thing I'm going to edit here is the copyright status. As the person who wrote this story, I definitely know that this story is copyrighted. When I'm done, we'll just click OK. Now to check the story back into the workflow, choose File, Check In. That saves the content and checks it back into the workflow in one easy step. So let's close this layout from InCopy. We'll switch over to InDesign, Command-Tab on the Mac or Alt-Tab on Windows, and from within InDesign, we'll open up that same layout. I'll just choose File, Open, and select the metadata.indd file that we just saw in InCopy. When I've got the right file selected, I'll click Open, and the first thing I see is that InDesign is offering to update this layout for me. Why does it need updated? Well, we just made a minor change to it inside of InCopy. I love how InDesign takes care of these tedious tasks for me. So I'll click Fix Links automatically. Just takes a moment, everything's set. Now remember, we added the metadata to this story over in InCopy, but when an InDesign user selects this story in the layout and goes to the Info palette in the top right corner of their screen, they can go to the flyout menu and choose File Info. Now this should look very familiar. It's the same dialog box that we just saw in InCopy. Now in InCopy, we were editing data. In this view, we're just viewing the metadata. This allows us to see information about the story. We can also insert our cursor in here and select and copy text. That's really helpful to ensure that you have the right byline or caption for a story. And then when you're done, click OK. So needless to say, metadata in InCopy and InDesign is pretty interesting. It'll help you get credit for your stories, and it also makes it easier to search for stories later. You can search by any of those fields, including description, keywords, and author. So I hope you found this InCopy tip to be helpful. For more information about InCopy, including how to export InCopy stories from an InDesign layout, creating InCopy assignments, and implementing the Live Edit workflow plugins in your publishing environment, check out Total Training for Adobe InCopy CS2, where I'll show you all of this and so much more.